For me, I think the umpiring of our game's become incredibly hard with the introduction of a lot of new rules over the last few years. There's just so much for umpires to think about now, and I just wondered whether really it's time for our umpires to become full-time professionals so that they can, you know, look at decision-making a lot more during the week. And I'm not being critical of them at all. I just think it's an incredibly difficult game to umpire now, and the more time that they can spend on it, the better they'll be come match day.
His is probably the most considered and the least reactionary voice in footy, Chris Fagan, and those words have sort of been ringing in my ears since the weekend. So we thought maybe a little bit broader, maybe a philosophical conversation and Razor's Edge tonight. Ray Chamberlain, welcome.
Gents, how are we?
Good. You two sorted out after the show.
Is there merit in the full-time argument?
I really love the sentiment of Chris there, and conveyed, I thought, in Chris's style, which is so inclusive and understanding and holistic, to be fair. So I definitely am of the belief that the best umpires, if you look at who are our best for the last 20 years, and you talk about Sean Ryan, Matt Stevic, Brett Rosebery, Simon Meredith, these gentlemen, I know how they live their lives, right? And so they apply the time to be the very best at the craft that they've chosen to participate in, which is AFL umpiring. And it comes first in their diaries. And at the letting go of things like Sean Ryan's a barrister. So to umpire AFL football, you know, he's made that choice and he's made that time commitment, and that's cost him money to do that. It's passion and love for the game. So I do agree, more time. I don't think full-time's necessarily the right term. I think the game demands and deserves elite. So it's got to be enough time, enough resources to equate to elite performance, elite preparation, elite recovery. So can I give you just a quick example of what might be a player land versus an umpire land to illustrate for people at home what the difference is for somebody like a Brett Rosebery. So Patrick Dangerfield goes to Geelong after killing it on the weekend, and he'll have physio and he'll have osteo and he'll have doctors and he'll have match and he'll have review and he'll have massage and Pilates, and it'll all be at the club. And he'll spend the day there and he won't miss a trick. And Brett Rosebery will go into work and he'll whack out 3 or 4 hours of getting early. He'll then leave his place of work. He'll drive to Universal Practice in Fitzroy there, Garry, and he'll do
What's that?
It's a Pilates studio, Garry. And he'll do his Pilates. He'll pay for that out of his own pocket, and then he'll go back to work and he'll continue on his merry way with his vocational pursuit during the day. So Brett, who's been a leader, 500-game umpire, 9 grand finals, all of the rest, he will not only take the time out of his day, but he'll also pay for it out of his own pocket to undertake what it takes to be the best over 20 years.
Yes, you're making the greatest
like
case of all time. You just made the case for full-time umpiring beautifully.
And so for me, Garry, and thank you, the balance piece though is this, right? What you may or may not have noticed over the last few weeks is that the umpiring environment can be somewhat of a negative one, right? It can be a challenging environment to be in when it's your only release in terms of your headspace. And that can be quite an unhealthy place to be. So having outlets, I think, is really important, where you've got this other face that you can put on and invest some level of time and pursuit and endeavour and mindset, which drags you out of the mire of what can be a challenging environment. And we see that with players too, having some diversity to their life.
Yeah, to have the education piece. So I don't think we could sit here and say the umpiring is as good as it could possibly be this year.
I'd agree with that.
So my question around the Pickett thing, I hope I haven't made light of it through the carry-on, is this the indicative moment where you go, we don't have the depth or the quality of umpiring to cover 9 professional games and all 9 games have to be equal? And I didn't mean to mock with the L-plate umpires, but we have umpires who are first and second year players coming through. But can the game actually afford to do that in its officiating?
Yeah, it's a really reasonable question. If we look at this one here, up the top of screen, you see an umpire doing everything they're meant to do to go and help cover. And then we have an umpire who is in control and officiating in the goal square, who misses 1 and then 2 subsequent free kicks that are clear and obvious. Now, without wanting to be nasty, you know, those types of free kicks, if they got missed at St Bede's Mentone on the weekend, I'd hear it from my backyard.
Yeah.
So, you know, don't worry about whether it's AFL or suburban football. That has to be That they have to be paid those 2 fees.
We know that, but why weren't they?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question, but I would suggest to you that we're not seeing that in every game to that degree. So there is a poor piece of umpiring.
Yeah,
but I don't know, and you're not trying to kick into them. I know that, but I don't think that one example, because your question was, is that
emblematic? Is that the actual? So I would want to dig into that. If I was in charge, I'd be going, okay, I want to know why. So how many things are you looking at to miss that, and the 2, and the other 2? I would want to know chapter and verse what this is, how it relates to other decisions. I don't think they had a stellar day, that crew. And then what's to be done at a systematic level about it. Because you used the club example, right, around full time. Say Geelong decided to change their defensive system tomorrow.
Yep.
They wouldn't do that. The defenders, you do for 6 o'clock Zoom. Midfielders, you come in at midday, and forwards we'll see you after work at 5 o'clock, and we'll just see if we can work this out. No. We're all in, and we're not leaving the room until we've sorted this out. That seems to me the flaw in the umpiring setup at the moment. And if you did have professional umpires who can then study and do into the room, and we're not leaving until we've sorted out holding the ball, and we'll be back tomorrow, and we'll be back 2 days after that, and we'll be back next week. And that's how you actually get uniformity across 40 if the number has to be 40.
Yeah, and your point's very well made. Obviously, we've got people who are giving up their lives in the pursuit of the endeavour. So clearly, just as passionately as you've articulated that, they are as passionately dedicated to the craft itself. So then this becomes a philosophical discussion that is beyond the umpiring list.
Yes.
This comes from commission level.
So if you said to the commission, what do you think the model, the best possible model for umpiring in the future would be?
Are you referencing in terms of time and remuneration or system?
To be the best you can be, to marry up with the game itself.
Yeah, see, the umpires need to be placed in a position where, and it doesn't matter if it's this mob or whoever comes through, where they are resourced and remunerated to a level that allows them to make it their priority.
Yes,
We've just gone through a federal election, Gary, where the primary discussion point was cost of living.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you look at it from that perspective, people have got bills to pay.
No, that's the choice you've got to make.
Correct.
But we need to make the choice for them more attractive, and then I think, then they commit to the umpiring pursuit, or they don't.
Agreed, yeah, exactly. We're not a foot in either camp. And as I articulated, the very best who have been there in September for 20 years on the bounce. I mean, Simon Meredith is 50, and I'd pick him tomorrow in the grand final. Right, and that's what he's done.
Yeah, and I think that's the ideal. I reckon Chris Fagan might be right here. So it is. I reckon it's a commission discussion.